Good morning, garden friends. I'm out here in the market garden on this cloudy and potentially stormy morning. We've got some storms to the west of us for the first round of storms today. So hopefully I can get most of this video done before I have to retreat inside. Anyway, today I wanted to take you into the market garden and show you what's been going on here. Been doing a bit of a reset. As you know, the season has not gone well. We've had a really rough growing season here in central New Hampshire. And I'm not the only one. I've been talking to a lot of my farmer friends, and we're all sort of struggling. This spring was extremely wet, and where this market garden sits, a lot of the water that is above us on the farm flowed right through this garden. And my market garden was sopping wet for most of May and into June. It's now the 1st of July, actually, and it's just now sort of getting back to where it normally would be in May in terms of moisture levels. I had standing water in the garden for most of May, and it made it really difficult to get anything going. It also brought in a ton of weed seeds as the water flowed over the garden. So I've been battling epic proportions, epic weeds. I can't even tell you how many weeds. I'll show you some of them, but I have not been winning the battle of weeds this year, and I'm still working on it. So anyway, I wanted to show you what's going on in the garden and show you the good bits, because there are a few good bits, believe it or not, and then do some planting today, hopefully before the rain starts. And yeah, just try to keep on top of what's been going wrong this season. Let's take a walk. So we'll start here at row 1, which is covered in weeds at the beginning here. But let me show you Sue's garlic, random sunflower from last year. I'm hoping this is a mammoth, actually. It looks mammoth. I'm going to leave that one. Oh, and another one. So Sue's garlic has been doing wonderfully with all this moisture. She actually just came in and harvested all the scapes. And yeah, it's looking great. So she'll be back in probably another month to harvest this crop. It's looking awesome. As you can see next door, the next row, row 2, I've tarped. I just gave up on the weeding, and none of my neighbors needed it for gardening this year, so tarping it. Also, sort of prepping it for my grand plan for these 2 rows for next year, which I hope to start prepping for this season. I'll have a little work to do on the head of row 1 here beforehand, but I will show you that in a future video. But some exciting plans for this portion of the garden next year. So these 2 rows are neighbor occupied rows. They've been struggling as well with standing water. You can see the soil is still like clumpy wet. This is way wetter than it normally is this time of year. Yeah, so they've been doing the best they can. They are definitely growing some good stuff. But yeah, it's been a challenge for them too. I had a few neighbors that just backed out this year from doing garden rows for other reasons. So I had a lot of open space that I didn't want to bother trying to keep weeded this year. So under the tarp it went. Got what, 5 rows here under the tarp, and this tarp will stay on all summer. And I won't have to worry about weeding this section. Here's my pollinator row. And again, it's been struggling a bit. The soil is so wet. But there are some things popping up. I've got some bachelor buttons, some pretty zinnias, a few sunflowers. I've seen the goldfinches in here already, picking. You can see here, the goldfinches have already been in here picking at the sunflower heads. My first Tithonia flower. Look at how brilliant orange that is. Gorgeous. So a lot of weeds. So I got to get in here and weed this. Oops, some cosmos. I also have to do some staking. One mistake I made this year, which again, because of the weather, is I left a lot of these annual flowers in the greenhouse too long, and as a result, they're a bit leggy and so a bit floppy. So I've had to do a lot of staking of things this year. But in another month, this row will be solid flowers as long as I keep deadheading. So far, so good. As good as I guess we can expect. Look at the goldfinches. They just destroy the seed heads as soon as they start to ripen, which is really the purpose of this row, is to bring in wildlife and feed the birds as well as the pollinators. All right. So here we are, row 11. I got my sweet potatoes in. It's 4 different varieties of sweet potatoes. I ordered these from Wood Prairie Farm up in Maine, and apparently not understanding that they outsource their sweet potatoes to a grower in North Carolina, which is fine, except that the sweet potato slips that came were in really bad condition. And as you can see, there are multiple ones that just did not survive. I'm down here. That one, that's weeds. These just didn't really survive very well. So I'm a little bit disappointed, but I'm still hopeful that I'll be able to get a decent sweet potato crop out of these. They're already growing now that we've actually got some heat in the last couple of weeks. They seem to have started to take off, so I haven't lost hope yet. In this next row, these are my regular potatoes. I've got Yukon Golds and then a red skin variety that my brain is currently forgetting. I will put it down below. It's not my usual red Nord. It's another variety that's new to them this year. Again, Wood Prairie Farm in Maine. I believe that's these lower ones here. But these are all doing very well. We hilled them up last week for the first time, and we'll hill them up again in a little bit, maybe another week or so. Give them another big dose of compost, and they're looking great. So yay, one positive in the garden. And then we turn this way. Look at all these weeds. Oh my gosh. So unfortunately, yeah, this set me back quite a bit because this was supposed to be carrots and a few other assorted things, and I haven't really, obviously, got much of that in. Let me show you up here. I do have some beets here that I'm growing mainly for the leafy greens. Beet greens are wonderful in eggs and in stir fries. Some Swiss chard, which is doing okay. And then here in row 14, my one sad carrot patch that I've managed to sow this year. I had 3 varieties. I got exactly 1 variety in so far. It already needs another weed. This is Yaya. It's an early season variety. And you can see they're rooting up nicely, the ones that did germinate. So I'm pretty happy with that. But I literally weeded this bed last week. And as you can see, the weeds have already come back. And I weeded this section a little bit. And yeah, it's been such a battle. So my plan for these 2 rows, I'm going to give them sort of a coarse weeding. And then I'm probably going to tarp at least part of it, maybe one or both of the remainder of this. I'd really like to get another crop of carrots in, but given the weed seed load, that's going to be a battle. We'll see. But yeah, I have a lot of weeding to do. So now here at row 15, we have the onions, which have really enjoyed this wet weather. You can see next to the onions here are sprinkler heads. These are called Fast and Fast sprinklers, a very fine sprinkler head. There's about, I think there's 17 in this row, all the way down. And this sprinkler set will cover these 4 rows, rows 13 through 16. And they were planned to be crops that like or can tolerate or prefer overhead watering, or are easier to water with overhead watering rather than drip tape, like the lettuces, the onions, carrots. But obviously my best laid plans haven't really materialized. But anyway, this is the only irrigation that I've officially set up and is functional. The rest we're going to be on drip tape, and it's somewhat partially set up, but I haven't hooked anything up because it's just been so wet, haven't needed it. Anyway, back to the onions. The onions are looking great. However, as you can see, the aisleway here is just choked with weeds. I'm starting to get weeds in the little holes in the weed cover, and especially like this, the crabgrass. This will just completely outcompete the onion. So this needs to come out. Yeah, I'm going to yank that out when I have both hands functioning. Anyway, so one of my goals today is to go through this onion row and weed it thoroughly. And I did some weeding yesterday over there, and make sure that the onions aren't competing with thirsty weeds. So yeah, so far the onions look great. The next row, the lettuces and the spinach, not so much. And part of it is the weed pressure here has been crazy, and I just haven't spent enough time to stay on top of it. The remaining spinach that I have is bolting, so that's got to come out. And then I've got some older lettuces that I've been harvesting, but we had a heat wave, was it a week and a half ago, that especially this tender butterhead lettuce just caused them to bolt. So these later varieties there look like they could be salvaged. But basically all this has got to come out. Most of it will go to the chickens. And then I put the rest of the row under a tarp a couple weeks ago. I do have to weed this aisleway, but my plan today, if I can fit it in before the storms, is to put down a weed mat like this woven weed cover with holes burnt into it. Put that down on this section of the row, and I've got another tray of lettuce and some spinach that I'm going to try again. And then I will come back and clean up this row and put this under the tarp for a few weeks to try to get the weeds to stop. So this next row, as you can see, I've also got a tarp on it, and took that just completely out of production. It's just easier. This next row, row 18, this is sort of a combination, threw it all together kind of row, because I wanted to limit the amount of fencing, support fencing, trellising that I had to do this year. I put sugar snap peas, and as you can see, they're already producing, and I need to harvest those. I'll harvest those in a bit. And then further down, we'll walk down here. I did snow peas. Now the problem with snow peas, I love snow peas. I've really struggled with them over the years. And the main problem, well, two problems. The main problem is I never seem to get them in early enough. And then that leads to the second problem, is that by the time they're ready to produce their pea pods, we get into 90-degree heat waves. And that just, the peas do not like heat. And they start looking a little bit leathery like this. And although they're still edible, they're just not quite as tender as they could be. So starting to get into that, I'm going to try to pick as much as I can today, and you know, hope for the best. And then on the back side of this trellis, these peas are planted. Let me whip you around here. These peas are planted on the front side of the trellis, and I'm again realizing my mistake in that. Next year I will plant them on the other side of the trellis. The peas always want to grow toward the west, which is this way, to the left of my screen here. And so they tend to grow away from the trellis. And I've noticed this multiple years, and then I struggle with trying to tie them in time. You can see this is leaning here. I got to tie those in. But sugar snap peas are very tall, and they've already flopped, and I'd had to shove them back up and tie them in, which damaged the vines, and they look a little bit wonky. And next year, I'm going to grow them on the other side of the fence so that they grow toward the fence and not away from the fence. Lessons learned. Let me bring you back around here. So on the other side of the fence, and again, also realizing my mistake with the peas, compounded my mistake with the tomatoes. I have tomatoes, and actually I've got some nice fruit here. Look at that already. Whoop, was pretty. So I've got 6 tomato plants here. There. And then up by where we get into the snap peas, I've planted cucumbers, both pickling and slicing. Ooh. Ladybug. Hey, ladybug. Yay, look at that. So I planted cucumbers on the back of this fence. The idea being that when, it's starting to flower already, when the sweet peas are done, or the sugar snap peas, look at pickles. I think these are the pickling cukes. When the peas are done and I tear them off the fence, I'll have these cucumbers in their place. And it's working so far. However, cucumbers and tomatoes both want a lot more sun. So they're being shaded right now by the peas. So we'll see. We'll see how that works. Next year, I will flip the process and put the peas on this side of the fence and the tomatoes and cukes on this side of the fence. Okay, now we're getting into the one section of the garden that actually looks halfway decent. Mainly because I just weeded it yesterday and the day before, but I'm actually growing stuff that I can eat and harvest now, besides peas. We've got green beans here. This is a variety called Jade, and they're coming along. Planted 2 rows in the row, and hopefully they'll be flowering in a couple of weeks. And then I've got peppers, and I've got red bell peppers. I've already got peppers here. I've got some Carmen peppers as well. They're pretty. Oh, here's a good one. So these are coming along okay. They're enjoying, I'm sure, the extra moisture. I haven't watered these at all since I put them in. We've just had so much wet. Actually, the one thing I wanted to check were the chili peppers down here. So here are the Carmen peppers. These are much longer, thinner peppers. And then the chili peppers, they're lemon chilies. They are flowering, but they are not yet producing fruit. So I did weed, believe it or not, these rows here. The one thing that I've discovered, come back up here where it's thicker, is that the water flowing through the garden brought a tremendous amount of sedge seeds. So I've got sedge everywhere in the garden. And I came through and weeded all of the big weeds like the crabgrass and purslane and such, but I need to come back through and pull or hoe the sedge here. I haven't been able to do any hoeing in this garden yet this year because it was basically hoeing mud, and that's not very productive. But yeah, so I've got sedge everywhere in the garden this year, and I know that came from up above, and it just spread the seed all through the garden. So lovely. Anyway, so let's go back over here. This is row 20. I have some bolted pak choi that I didn't pick soon enough. Some gorgeous kohlrabi. Look at that. I'm going to pick that today, actually. Do that in a little bit. And then this is all broccoli, cauliflower, multiple different types of broccoli and cauliflower. Some have already produced. Let me take you down here. Oh, here we go. Look at that beautiful cauliflower. This variety, I will have to look it up. Hang on here. So I can't tell from the wooden fading stake that I put in there. This variety is doing much better than the other variety in terms of color and consistency of the head. This is a self-blanching variety. I'll put that on the screen once I go in and figure out what it is. Ooh, some more. That. So beautiful. I will definitely pick these today because if I leave them any longer, they will start to rice. We don't want that. And then further down here, here's the other variety. And as you can see, this has already started to, what they call rice, loosen up. And so I'm going to cut these today, right away. And these will be done because their quality is just going to deteriorate after this. And then into some more broccoli, some that I've already harvested. You can see a cut stem there. Oops, right there. Oh, and here's a little head forming there. And then if we go back up this row, the next row here, I've got kale, lots of nice Dino kale. Although I noticed that the cabbage moths are already out in force, so I've got to check and potentially spray these. I've got 2 curly kale plants left. The rest died, which is weird. So I've got more kale seedlings that I'm going to try to get in today before the rain. So beautiful kale, though. I actually really love Dino kale, so I plant lots of it. And then more broccoli. This is sprouting broccoli. I'll put the variety names down below, and already I missed that one. But the more you cut, the more side shoots it produces. So I'll cut this today, and then side shoots will come out of the sides here and give me other smaller heads. So I'll cut this today as well. See, I already cut the main head there, and there's lots of little side shoots. So more. One I missed again. You have to stay on top of this, like daily. They produce them so fast. And then here's the traditional heading broccoli. I'm not thrilled with the color of these. These are a little yellow, which tells me they don't have enough nitrogen. But I'm going to cut them today anyway, and maybe give them another dose of nitrogen fertilizer. Oh, this one, that one looks pretty good. So yeah, lots of broccoli. I'm going to be chopping it up and blanching and freezing it, putting it in the freezer. Oh, that one went by. I could give that one to the chickens. Next in the garden, I've got cabbages, mixed success. And because I had to take the row cover off of this row because these broccoli plants got so big, the flea beetles got into the cabbages, and you can see all these little holes. Now, this doesn't affect the taste. It just affects, aesthetics, really. And I'm going to be harvesting these pretty soon. This is a variety called Carex. It's a pointy head cabbage. They're beautiful, minus the flea beetle damage. And then some green cabbage heads. Again, these are gorgeous, and I'm probably going to have to harvest these soon. I've got some more seedlings I'm going to put in today of the red variety because I need to harvest this guy today. Isn't that beautiful? Get the hoop out of the way. All right, to end the tour, the grand tour of the weed patch, we have the last 3 rows. And as you can see, the back end of these rows is just ridiculously weedy. I have to get in here, get on top of it. This row here, row 22, is my perennial holding row. And as you can see, I've got a bunch of stuff that's coming up. I do not remember what that is. Uh-oh. Anyway, got some Russian sage here. I think this is Helianthus. And then some yarrow. beautiful. Look at that color. So a lot of these will go back into the pollinator garden. I am going to put some of these into the barn slope / kitchen view garden. Peonies have gone by. I gotta cut these off. Yeah, so there's lots of good stuff in here. I need to get it into the proper spot. I wish I remember the name of this. I think it's a Heliopsis or Helianthus. I'll have to look that one up. Some Shasta daisies with a rogue rose campion stuck in the bottom of this. I love that. Yeah, more echinacea, more coneflowers, all sorts of good stuff. And then row 23, we have the comfrey patch, which, oh my goodness, I had to hack it all down. Yeah, out of control. Anybody want some comfrey? And then this is the lovage or lovage. I don't know how you pronounce that. Look at that. This got to be like 10 feet tall. I love it. Absolutely love it. More comfrey that needs to go to compost. And then my rhubarb patch is just starting to go over. It's fading fast with the heat. But again, ridiculous this year with the amount of moisture. Oh, look. Coneflower. Pretty. Yeah, these are definitely going to go get transplanted soon. I have some lavender here that I grew from seed. And I'll show you this when I do a video on the herb garden, but I have a little lavender ring around the front door landing. And these are replacement plants for any that died. And I did have a few that are looking rather sad. So we'll take these out and plug them in. Some liatris. Rhubarb, more rhubarb. Can't remember what this is. This might be a goldenrod. We'll see. I know this is a goldenrod here, mainly because I bought it. It is from High Country Gardens. Fireworks. Appropriate since it's the 1st of July. And then over here we have paprika, yarrow, and then moonbeam. Isn't that beautiful? So yeah, back to the rhubarb. And then finally the asparagus row. The asparagus is hanging in. I've been hand eliminating asparagus beetles. Let's see if I can catch this little bugger. There we go. Asparagus beetles. Hang on one moment. All right, I'm back. Had to dispose of those. Anyway, I've been hand picking the asparagus beetles, and so far it seems to be working. I haven't had to spray. I'd rather not spray if I don't have to. If I can keep it up with manual control, I'd rather do that. But obviously, if it gets to a point where I can't, I will resort to BT for the worms and spinosad for the beetles. Anyway, this row desperately needs weeding. Yeah. All right, well, that was the grand tour of the weed patch. I can feel a few raindrops. You can see the sky is darkening a little bit. So I'm going to get going on harvesting the broccoli and the cauliflower that I showed you earlier, as well as some of the peas, to try to get those in before the skies might open up, maybe. And then I'm probably going to have to come back to this video later. We'll see how this harvest goes and if I can continue recording or if I have to step inside for a little bit until this passes and yeah, and continue on with planting the lettuce and the other things. All right, so let's get the knife and start harvesting. Okay, well, that didn't go quite as planned. As soon as I finished the last segment and went to set up the camera and grab my tools to begin cutting, the sky opened up. So I had to beat feet inside, and yeah, about an hour later, I'm back out here again, and I'm gonna be harvesting some broccoli, cauliflower, peas, and a kohlrabi for later, and then hopefully do a little planting before the next round of storms come through. So let's get going and get this done before I have to run back inside again. So here's the ridiculous amount of produce that I just pulled out of the garden. Look at this huge bag of snow peas. Not quite as much in the snap pea category, but they're doing okay. And then I harvested a red cabbage and a green cabbage, some kale. I'm looking to make some slaw later, and I'll add some kohlrabi to that. And then just a pile of broccoli and cauliflower heads stuffed into this bin. It's amazing. And I wasn't even really trying in my mind this year, and I've already got a bountiful harvest. So it just shows you how much you can grow in a small space with some effort. But it's stunning how much produce is in this one little spot here. And it's only July 1st. I have the rest of the season to go. So I've harvested what I wanted to harvest this morning, and I'm gonna go bring everything inside and put it in the refrigerator to keep it cool. I like to finish my harvesting, do all of my harvesting before like 10 o'clock in the morning, preferably. Definitely no later than like 11. And that's mainly because vegetables are the freshest first thing in the morning. They've had the cool overnight to pull up water from the ground, and they're as moisturized as they're going to be, and the heat of the day hasn't come over them and started wilting or pulling moisture out of them. When I was a market gardener, I had a hard rule that 10 o'clock was the latest I would ever harvest any greens. Tomatoes and onions would be a little bit different, but definitely anything in the greens variety was harvested first thing in the morning. So it's now just about 11 o'clock. So I need to get these vegetables in the refrigerator, and then I'm going to come out and start prepping to plant. I've got some kale plants and a few cabbage starts that I'm going to put in the ground here, and then I'm going to get the lettuce bed prepped so I can put my latest round of lettuces in before the next round of whatever's going to happen this afternoon gathers steam and drives me out of the garden. So I'll be right back. I'm going to go inside the house and bring the veggies in, and we'll get going on the planting. All right, by the magic of YouTube, I pulled the tarp that was on this row, magically weeded all the stuff that was in this aisleway here, and then put down this weed mat that has some burned holes in it. We have a template that we use to burn these holes into this weed mat. And then I planted some spinach way down at the end, and then a few rows of head lettuce, mainly green leaf and red leaf lettuce. And then this right here is a planting of Salanova lettuce, which is a head lettuce that you cut and it falls apart into little baby salad leaves. And there are 8 varieties in this mix, and they make a great lofty salad mix, colorful salad mix. So got those in, did an initial watering. I am drenched, absolutely drenched. It's so humid right now. And so I'm gonna move on to the cabbage and kale. And then I just realized I have Brussels sprouts in the greenhouse that really, really, really need to get into the ground. So I'm gonna try to put those in real quick because the heat is really getting to me. And I'm just afraid a storm's gonna sneak up on me before I get all this done. So back to work. All right, so I'm back in the kale row, kale, broccoli row, cabbage row. And I actually went inside. I did the smart thing. I went inside and got some liquid in me. And I also had to change my shirt because I was completely soaked through. So now I'm back out. I'm going to try to get these planted real quick. I've got 6 curly kale. These are dark Ebor seedlings that I'm going to put right here. And I'm going to pop them out of their tray and plant them in here. And then I'll show you this cute little trick I learned. So let me put this one in here. And you can plant kale really deep, actually, deeper than the top of the soil. Give it a little fertilizer. All right. So here in my garden, we have cutworms that show up every once in a while, usually in early spring when I first plant out my kale and cabbage seedlings. And they'll just cut the plant off at the top of the soil. And I've lost many a seedling to cutworms. So I discovered this trick. I can't remember where I found it, but toilet paper or paper towel rolls, the inner roll of the paper, save them. And I cut like maybe 2-inch or so, depending on the size of the seedling, 2-inch lengths. And what you do is you just slip the collar over the plant, nestle it into the dirt around the plant, and you have protection from cutworms. This will naturally decompose, or at some point you can just take it off if you don't like the look of it. But at least for a few weeks, it will protect the very tender seedling until the stem hardens enough that it's resistant to cutworms. So I'm going to take care of the rest of these seedlings and then move on down to the cabbages. Okay, I'm done in more ways than one. Oh my gosh, it's so hot out here. And I'm out way later than I normally am on hot days. So I'm going to get inside pretty soon. I just finished planting the Brussels sprouts. I had probably about 24 plants that have been in the greenhouse way too long. And yeah, and you'll notice I didn't put the cardboard collars on these. That's because the stems at the base are a bit woody right now because they are older. And so I think they'll be fine. Plus, I'm too hot. I don't want to do it. So I'm going to leave them to their own defense. But I think they'll be fine. They're mature enough. I think they'll be able to handle it. So I'm going to go get some water these guys in along with the cabbages and the kale. And then I'm going inside to cool off. Thank you for sticking with me through this very rambling, disjointed video. but you can see the real state of my garden at the moment. And yeah, it's an ongoing battle. Anyway, thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.